This is in Portland in Victoria State, and this is in Cape Town, South Africa. And it's similar architecture in New Orleans and places in the United States. Okay, this is French Quarter in New Orleans.
And see, all they really need to do there is change up the, you know, the look of the balconies and the roof line, and it looks like a completely different building, doesn't it? Where underneath it's pretty much the same building.
So this is Amsterdam Island right here. And I said I followed it up and got a lot of information along the way.
So how do you know where to go after Amsterdam Island?
So I just basically I just kind of went like I was kind of like a circle.
So it's pretty much intuitive again. You're just pretty much like, and then
yeah, but
and then you're finding things on those lines.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So in that case, I was tracking a circular alignment.
Have you seen the flat map with this flower of life imprinted over it?
I haven't, but you know, like I said, I think this works both ways. You know, flat math. I think
if that would.
I think we are talking. The flower of life is part of sacred geometry. For those out there, it's the creation pattern of the universe, and we are filled with sacred geometry in our design, as is all life. And it's not just, goes beyond the earth. This is a kind of a galactic concept. And so, you know, the big lie is that ancient humans were very, very advanced as opposed to what we've been taught.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's a lot of stuff in the mix as to, you know, exactly how we came to be, and then how we came to be the way we are now. But we were very advanced.
Yeah.
I think up until recently. I think something happened recently.
I agree. I mean, I was thinking when you showed the pictures of Iran, you know, just how quickly they can change everything. You know, in the 70s they look like us, and then now they're, you know, it's a lockdown state, you know, full burkas and all this kind of stuff. So you can imagine that the you know, the 12, 15-year-olds there today would have no idea that it was a different place just, you know, 40, 50 years ago. And in the scope of things, that's not a long time. It doesn't take long to erase the past, does it? And then you throw wars in there, which in my opinion, wars have a lot to do with MK Ultra. You know, they get in there and they traumatize people. And then when people are confused and traumatized, they can insert new ideas. So I think, yeah, I mean, it's very nefarious stuff. I mean, when you start looking at it, which is why I can understand why a lot of people, you know, I don't think it's not that they don't believe us. They don't want to believe us. They don't want to go there. They don't want to believe that this world is as bad as, you know, can have some evil in it as bad as it is. Mm-hmm. But the way I see it, unless you know, you can't fight an enemy you don't know exists, can you? You can't fix problems that you don't know exist. So knowledge is definitely the way forward.
I think so. I mean, that's a big motivator for me. And, you know, to really get into it, you just have to really accept the idea that we've been taught falsehoods and be willing to let go of everything you believe to be true. And if, you know, for those that are willing to do that, there's so much to find.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it really is like opening the box, isn't it? It's like we go to school and we get taught all this stuff, and all our peers all telling us how things are, and they build the box around us, and that's all you can see unless you start pushing, at the top. And once that top opens, it's a different world. Like it really, it's like the cave, isn't it? Plato's cave. What you see is a completely different reality than what you believed. And this is the whole thing. I used to, that whole saying, for those with eyes to see, and sayings like that, that it's all an illusion. I used to literally sit there and try and see through the illusion. It's like, is this some projected screen? Can I see something if I meditate long enough? But now I've come to learn all it is. The illusion is what we believe. That's the illusion. They just get us to think certain things, and then we can't see certain things because we just don't look for them, because we don't understand that they exist.
that's exactly what they've done. Like I said, they don't draw attention to certain things, so we don't see it, and we don't even think it until there's a shift in perception. And that's kind of what happened to me. And around, I moved to Oklahoma from Alaska in 2012 to help with my mom. With my brother had invited her to live with them. It's a long story, so I won't go into that, but that's where I woke up to this. I started to see shapes in the environment and notice things, and go on trips. Once I figured out that one of the ways they covered up things was by calling man-made places natural features. Like we were talking about earlier with the rivers, it's also extends that to canyons and mesas and buttes and bluffs. A bluff is a bluff. And, there's a cover-up code.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's like the buildings, isn't it? It's got to be a post office, a mental asylum, or a Capitol building, pretty much.
I'm looking at, you mentioned cairns, so I'll just go down because I think I have some examples in this one. Let's see.
It's an interesting place, cairns. There must be something going on there, because there's actually a saying called going tropo, and when you get to cairns, everyone's like, "Oh, have you got a tropo yet?" It's like, what does that mean? And people literally just lose their minds up there. People have wandered off into the forests and sort of haven't been seen for years, and then they pop out again, and people, it's called going tropo. People, there's something with the energy up there, and people just lose it. Some turn into hermits, some just go crazy. It's really weird.
That's interesting.
I
wonder where cairns is on the grid.
We're looking into it.
So I find waterfalls along these alignments.
Okay.
More pyramidal shapes. Let's see, another bend there. That's on the island of Flores.
Wow.
Let's see, you find these kinds of things all over the place.
Yeah.
And I think they were framing astronomical events.
Yeah.
This civilization was aligning heaven and earth. And I've got examples of that.
I noticed that a lot years ago when I was researching megaliths. So many of them, line up on certain equinoxes and certain days and that, and some of them just have like these tiny little holes, and the sun will shine straight through it on a certain day, certain time, and hit some, picture on the inside. And they're so precise that it's obviously tracking something. And I often wondered, was it tracking, the sun? Like, is it trying to say if the sun doesn't line up in this hole, there's something wrong, or there's something coming, Oh, I don't know.
I found the same phenomena with lighthouses. Same idea. And other things.
Really? What, like they're framed sort of in those arch rocks, you mean, or?
They're like the moon's rising behind them,
Oh,
The
really?
sun's rising behind them.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I've seen that with colossal statues like the Statue of Liberty in New York. There's statues of liberty all over the earth, but
Yeah.
uh, replicas.
Of course, they're replicas. Yeah.
Capitol buildings, I've seen, the sun and the moon going over those perfectly.
Actually, I've seen a photo, I think, of the US Capitol with the sun over, or maybe the moon. Angkor Wat does it as well, with the sun. Yeah.
So Darwin, interestingly, and again, I find stuff like this, was the location of the first bombing in Australia in February of 1942, after Australia had declared war on Japan. Oh, wait a minute. Is that right? I might have the wrong, I don't know. Whatever, it was bombed in 1942. Okay. First bombing in Australia.
Yeah. And the Japanese had to go a long way out of their way to get down here. I mean, some of the stories you hear in these stories about, they were defending through Papua New Guinea and it took months, and it doesn't really make a lot of sense, really, when you start to think about it.
This type of port,
Yep.
I find all over the earth. Literally.
We've got them all over the place. We call them groins. They're everywhere, up and down the coast, everywhere.
I can even show you something that looks like that at the tip of South America in Tierra del Fuego.
Oh no.
There's a port a harbor down there that looks like that.
Really?
And this is one of the reasons I wanted to go here. This is Howard Springs Nature Park. And you see these stones here, and these are the ones that I'm talking about that are just lying around randomly everywhere. And that's why they're not natural occurrences. And so here's some more.
That's a good point.
In Australia, and then these are ones. I took these pictures at Martin Nature Park in Oklahoma City. Nice walking path.
I've never thought of that one before, but now that you say it, it makes perfect sense. I mean, what is a rock doing in the middle of a landscape that has no rocks? How did it get there? That's, yeah, right. Gosh, okay. Gonna start noticing.
Just start looking.
Yeah, you put it in my head now. I won't be able to
start looking. And I really think that I can guarantee you, without hesitation, that you're going to find this somewhere near. Look at parks.
I mean, we've got the hills
off the side of the road.
We've got the hills of Perth, and if you go up there and walk around, but like, it's ridiculous. All the little streams, they've all got rock, made edges and little waterfalls, and there's rocks everywhere, and it's the same story. Oh no, we just sort of whacked that together a few years ago for you, but it's everywhere. It's literally everywhere through our hills. All these different streams, and they're all quite clearly they're all man-made. So who was doing all this? It's the question, isn't it?
Okay. Probably these guys.
Probably, and this is the thing. Wouldn't have taken. They could have easily reduced them to that in a couple of generations. In Australia, there was Indigenous people in Tasmania that were slightly different. They grew frizzy hair and afros and things, got dreadlocks. They wiped the whole lot out. The last one, it was a lady that died around 1900, I think. So they literally destroyed the whole population. Yes.
Did you know about the World's Fair in Tasmania?
Yeah. Do you know what?
1894.
I found one. I haven't done a video yet. I'm going to industrial exhibition in Coolgardie. Now, Coolgardie is a mining town of a couple of thousand people in the middle of the desert. There's nothing around it, but they had an exhibition there. Is that Adelaide, that one? I mean, sorry, Hobart?
This isn't Hobart.
Yeah. They had Adelaide as well, had one. I can't find one for Perth, but Adelaide definitely, Melbourne and Sydney and Hobart. And the exhibition hall in Sydney it's still there. It's absolutely massive. And I reckon they built it in 8 months.
So this is a process that was going on, and you know why these people kind of got kicked back to the Stone Age. I mean, you can just Google tribe of Reuben, Australian Aborigines, and this pops up. You know, so there's just been so much has taken place here.
We had pygmies as well in Australia, up until there's photos from the 40s and 50s. Like we had tribes of pygmies up in Queensland. And
the pygmies, from what I've learned recently, were the oldest humans are the pygmies, like way back.
On all the old maps, it's always pygmies are always up on one of the islands in Hyperborea.
So this is in Arnhem Land through here. So I'm going this way. And this is a very old masonry here. And I can pull out pictures from other places and show you the same idea.
Mm.
And then of course we get the Gulf of Carpentaria, named for, let's see. Okay. I thought maybe I had how it got its name, but I have Matthew Flinders coming through here. And the Wellesley Islands are named for a friend of his.
That's what you do, right?
Mm-hmm. And Moreton Island, a little pyramid-looking thing there.
Oh, wow.
Here you've got more shapes, the same shapes as U-shapes. And then cairns. So this is how we're coming down. The next one I crossed over the Great Barrier Reef, probably sunken land. More waterfalls, gold fields, and that's another thing. I find gold fields and mineral occurrences all along these things, and I think that's something the ancient civilization was doing as well. I mean, I think they were master builders, master chemists, alchemists.
Well, I mean, this is the thing. If you live in a society where the government aren't trying to, rob you and keep you down, steal your money and repressing ideas and all this kind of stuff, I mean, how fast would a society, civilization turn into something like that? Because without restrictions, it's like Germany, 1933 destroyed the poorest country. They wiped all tax, and within 3 years, it was the richest country in Europe. So it doesn't take a lot of time to get things back to normal. It's just that we're so pushed down, we're so robbed, really, of everything: money, time, resources, ideas.
I said lighthouses, all like I said.
Windows.
You have these, really nicely, perfectly shaped shorelines everywhere.
So
the champagne pools.
Do you think that maybe the whole place was terraformed, or do you think it was done sort of bit by bit over a long time, or do you think people came in and sort of, let's do the whole place?
I don't know. That's a good question. I do believe it was terraformed.
Yeah.
Whether all at once or over time, I don't know. But that's just an example of this here. So this is Fraser Island in the Great Barrier Reef area. Let's see.
Torres Strait, yeah.
Yeah. Torres Strait.
That's a bit north of.
Great Barrier Reef. Okay, so this is Fraser Island down here. Interesting looking Lady Elliot Island. It's an eco resort. And so it's pointing out the nicely shaped shoreline here at Fraser Island, and then you have the champagne pools. And at the champagne pools, you have what appear to be straight lines.
Yeah, right.
And then looks like a river in the Great Barrier Reef there.
Definitely.
You know, and the whole idea is that maybe the coral and the marine life of the reef formed on top of sunken ancient infrastructure, you know, kind of like what you see with sunken ships that have coral on them.
I mean, well, it's a way for them to push the time scale back, isn't it? Because, you know, reefs take, 100,000 years to grow because they grow so slowly, right? You know, adds to the narrative.
So we're taught that the historical location of Mu is this part of the world.
Yeah, I'm confused.
And
What a big.
you know, so what happened? When did it happen? You know, there's just been so much information that's been scrambled.
Where's that map from? What's that map of?
That's Lemuria.
So
that
it's
would
just
be
different
Mu.
water levels, basically. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So Australia, is part of, okay, Mu. Is that right? Africa, Asia, India. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it looks like it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably what that would be, right?
Yeah.
It sure looks like it.
Asia and Papua New Guinea and stuff like that. Australia.
Okay, so Nan Madol, which is part of the, I want to say, let me make sure I get the right. Okay, it's part of the Federated States of Micronesia. It's Nan Madol. So on Pohnpei Island. Okay, now it's on Pohnpei, so it's showing here as part of landmass.
Part of landmass, because it actually goes from the land into the water, doesn't it? Yeah.
And then this is Nan Madol on Pohnpei. Artificial islands, you know, that they're basalt columns laid out like Lincoln logs. Yeah. It's an incredible place. And then the map shows Yonaguni up here. And these are places I learned about long before I started doing my own research.
It's on land.
So it's underwater, and I don't know if they're still trying to claim that it's natural.
Yeah.
But I know when I was first learning about Yonaguni, there was, you know, seriously academics saying it was natural.
Yeah, no, they're still trying to push that. They're saying it's, yeah, I know, right?
You know,
yeah, no, it's a natural formation formed by.
You know, you're really, how's that work?
It's ridiculous.
I mean, there's some infrastructure that's so old, like some of the ones that I've shown you, that you can't really tell for sure.
Yeah.
You know, but clearly,
when you get right angles, it's got staircases in it too, hasn't it? That's just.
Again, this is in Noumea in New Caledonia, and that harbor that I was telling you about.
With the groin, yeah. Okay.
Earlier.
Yeah.
And this is one of the reasons I came here is, you know, again, this is the picture of the Kanak people, the original people of New Caledonia, currently less than half of the population. And this lighthouse in Noumea is beautiful. You know, and again, they're going to tell us it was built by some European guy.
Yeah, some white dude who rocked up in a boat with no tools.
And then the historic bank in Indochina, and again, I find this kind of layout all over, you know, where I call them street corner architecture. And so these are some examples. This is in Juarez, Mexico. This is in Toledo, Ohio, and this is in Kherson, Ukraine. You know, and those are just three examples of a multitude.
That's a common look, that one.
And then the Numia Cathedral, built between 1897 or 1887 and 1897.
On Numia, which is a tiny little island in the Pacific. Come on.
No. So there's that type of entranceway with arches and columns, and you find the same thing in the Russian Orthodox Church in Manhattan.
They look like speakers to me. I call them speaker doors.
That looks like a Jesuit.
Yeah.
Is that IHS?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So anyway, so you've got the same idea there. You have that in England, in Norwich, and in Turku, Finland. That was said to have been consecrated in 1300. Barcelona, Spain.
Oh, that's nice.
1339. Again, you've got inhabitants of the region that's part of Oceania, yeah. That identify as the Hebrew tribe of Naphtali.
Really?
And I think that's part of how the
Polynesians and things actually, that they say that they're an ancient Hebrew tribe.
Right.
Wow.
So the Aborigines in Australia are saying they're Reuben. These guys are saying they're Naphtali. And what I believe the tribes of Israel represent are how the original civilization was laid out around the world. So again, they want to say it was all from one physical place, but I think they were worldwide. It's like my favorite graphic.
Wow.
That this was how the tribes were laid out around the earth. You know, aligning the civilization with the heavens as well. Not just the buildings, not just what they were terraforming. I think it all, you know, coincides with getting us like Heaven's Mirror. I don't know if you're familiar with Graham Hancock's book.
Yeah. Called
Heaven's Mirror. And, you know, people have identified certain places that reflect that. But I think it was a worldwide phenomenon that was perfectly aligned in all ways with the heavens. But that information's gotten lost when their identity got taken over by the Zionists. And I've been doing some research about that lately.
Yeah.
I think that whole legacy was hijacked, and part of the problem that we're experiencing right now.
It's interesting
about how all this got lost.
It's like, do you think that those tribes are linked to frequencies? Like, are they sort of vibrating differently? We're talking energy, and is that got anything to do with star forts in the area? Or do you find, like, do we know, like there's certain, because we know that star forts obviously had to do with frequency. Like, do you find like that a certain area has a certain sort of frequency, and the people that would have lived there would have been attuned to that frequency, and that's why it was their sort of land, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense to me, Campbell. That makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, they were functioning at a much higher level of consciousness.
Because I mean, the Aboriginals of Australia, they talk so much, and I'm sure most Native people do, about being tied to the land and linked to the land, and this is our land. They're very, into their land, and this is our land. This is where we're supposed to be, kind of thing, aren't they?
That makes sense to me. I mean, there's so much knowledge that we've lost or that's been taken from us.
It would also make sense with the whole orphan trains and the mixing of populations. If that was true, then that would just confuse people, wouldn't it? It would stuff up all the things. It would create divide and conquer. It would create tension. Yeah. Wow.
And that's why the controllers go after the indigenous people.
Indigenous, yeah.
They don't want, they don't want them to exist. They want people that they can control, mind control and whatever else. And, we have abilities, psychic abilities and, higher abilities that I think a lot of the indigenous people just access naturally. And
well,
it's just,
we don't have ceremony, do we? That's one thing all native, people have is ceremony. They all have their dances, and it's all to do with energy and spirits and all this kind of stuff. And we don't get that. And another thing with native populations is, their history is hammered into them so much more than we get. They're really told, you must protect your history, so you must know it, and this is what it is. So like they're really, really, it's just, when you look at it from our point of view, it looks like a concerted effort to just change who they think they are very quickly, because it's like the whole SJW thing. If they're given something and it's kind of, that's your heritage, and then they feel like they have to defend it, so they become it. And then once you become it, well, then it's truth, right? That's their history. Everything else gets forgotten.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy what's been going on here. More of the stones I was talking about. There's formations like this all over. These islands, the Chromatic Islands, considered part of New Zealand, are on several different alignments. Oh. So, I'm not really sure what their importance was, but it seems like they were on the original grid system.
I think New Zealand's sitting on the top of an old continent, isn't it? Zealandia.
This is what you find in Chile. All right, so this is in Punta Arenas in Chile, and okay, these two, and then this is in Siberia.
Oh.
In the city of Kresy, Cressy. Same architecture, right?
And the story for South America has got to be harder than Australia, isn't it? To try and piece together how the hell they got those buildings there. Come on.
So this is in Chile, and this is in the Ukraine. Same idea going up there.
Yeah, and also one tropical, one in the snow, but it's the same, isn't it?
So interestingly, I first heard the name Punta Arenas because of the ozone hole, which we don't ever hear about that anymore, do we?
No. No, they got it.
It was a big deal back in the 80s. We're gonna die.
Yeah. And then everyone realized that they weren't drowning, so they had to come up with a new fear story.
It goes through the South Sandwich Islands, which were part of a British overseas territory to this day, but claimed by Argentina. That going on. And then just Cape Town, and what Cape Town looks like.
Flat top mountains there, everywhere, aren't they?
And then you've got this this on Table Mountain.
Still got a massive starwood in it too, hasn't it?
I got that in here. Yeah, so there you go. It looks like masonry there.
Wow.
And this is the National Library of Cape Town and the National Archives in Washington, D.C. And more of the same fancy style there. And then
there we go, yeah.
the Star Fort in Cape Town. And this one in Portugal. In New York State, Fort Ticonderoga.
Right.
This is a beautiful one in Japan, Hakodate on Hokkaido.
that one.
This one's in the Netherlands.
And that's an
And
interesting
then-
one too, because it's got that bit coming off. I sort of call them starbursts. See how it sort of comes down, like energy's going in a certain direction.
I've heard the concept of cymatics
Yep.
applied to starports.
Yep, definitely, I agree.
And then canals in Cape Town. This one's in St. Petersburg, Russia. And this is the Angkor Canal in Tashkent in Uzbekistan.
Angkor and it's spelled the same too. Is it Angkor what? Interesting.
And then I turned it into, I turn all of my blog posts into videos.
Oh, okay, nice.
So anyway, those are just some
Yeah,
examples of what I've encountered doing this research.
and that's the thing, all these towns and cities were given different dates of being built and founded and all this stuff, but they're all the same. They all look the same. Right? Doesn't make sense, does it?
And by doing the research on the alignments, like I've been showing you, is how I got the information about the rest of the story. Had I not done this research, I wouldn't have all the information that I can pull from when I start to put it together. And I don't, from the time that I started, I'm getting more views now on my videos, but the ones I tended to get more views on were the ones where I started putting things together. Ancient and modern evidence for the perfect alignment of heaven and earth worldwide, and the curious case of architects and the monumental works attributed to them, exposing exhibitions on World's Fair since 1851, how monuments and memorials hide the advanced ancient civilization. So I started to put together what I was finding on these alignments.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And that's really how I've landed where I am right now. Just going deeper and deeper.
Yeah, and it's definitely a rabbit hole. I mean, the problem with this is it's not just a rabbit hole; it goes sideways, doesn't it, in so many directions when you start looking into this. It's, I mean, yeah, you get to a point where you just throw your hands up, go, okay, none of it's true. Forget it all, or just start again.
Yeah, unfortunately, again, what's taking place here goes so deep. And it's so wrong.
It is, yeah.
When you come down to it, it's like, okay, humanity, we got to wake up and, heal from this.
Definitely.
Fighting is not going to be the solution. Being angry is not going to be the solution. This is our opportunity to go up in consciousness, and knowing the truth is a big part of that. If you don't know what's taken place, you don't know what to heal, that there is a need for healing.
Yeah.
Not only as individuals, but collectively, we're all in this boat together. Like you said, humans don't naturally fight each other.
No, they don't.
We really don't.
No.
It's been manipulated. It's been manipulated by race and religion, and the wars that we've been seeing, it's all been manipulated to devolve us instead of evolve.
Yeah.
Or, evolving us in a direction we really don't want to go. So somebody had left me a comment about the 7 Salem eclipse on one of my videos, and I've gotten some really interesting research out of people that have left comments. It's taken me to some really interesting places. And this one was no exception, because there's really something quite magical about these 2 eclipses. I was actually did participate in ceremony. I guess you kind of call it like a Native American ceremony on this, but I didn't know about this 7 Salem part of it. I just remember being involved because it was a full eclipse, and the path of what's called the path of totality, where you have this feature. Okay. It's like a narrow band where it's where it's dark. I'm sorry, what was your question?
That image below, is that like the sine wave? The one below there?
What it is, okay, so as soon as I started looking up the August 21, 2017 eclipse, I found out that there's another one in 2024 going in the opposite direction.
And it makes that sine wave. Wow.
And so it gets better. They both cross at the same location, which is and around Carbondale, Illinois. There's so many synchronicities in this. It's mind blowing.
So along these basically sun lines, they're actually the lines that you're finding. Is that right?
Right. So this one, for example, basically goes along the lines of the research I just did here from San Antonio, Texas to Buffalo, New York. Basically is the same alignment as the second eclipse, because this is San Antonio right here, and this is Buffalo right here.
Hello, Dustin.
Okay. And the moon is covering the sun at totality. And so I looked up all the cities, the Salems, and then other cities that were along the way. Found a lot of really interesting stuff. And this is a good example of another thing. Again, you've got that interesting looking pole, utility pole there. But where did all the streetcars go?
Rockefeller bought them out and destroyed them, didn't he?
So they could replace them with automobiles
with
and
buses. Yeah, so we could pay for petrol.
Right.
Yeah. I remember
when we had free energy.
I lived in Melbourne. I was there in the 80s. And in the 1980s, all the trams were free. The trams are still in Melbourne, but literally back then you'd just hop on, you'd go down the street and then you'd hop off. No money, just free.
Can't have that.
You can't have that anymore, no.
Same thing with courthouses that we saw in Australia. You find in the United States these, impossible buildings. This one was said to have been built in 1872 in Salem, Oregon. And then it was demolished in 1952 for this building. I mean, again, I think that's part of the story.
I mean, it's like they just hate beauty and creativity. It's just the Borg, right? Turn everything into squares and cubes.
These beautiful old theaters, again, we're told they're built by modern firms. They've got names for them. They've got documentation that so-and-so built such and such. But,
just renovating them. The word novate means to change like the legal owner of a building. So renovate is actually renovate. It just means that you go in. Basically, I reckon they literally walked in, found an empty building, went, "Who owns this?" "Oh, no one." "Okay," and they just signed it over to themselves, renovated it, and went, "It's ours now."
These are some things I found along the way. Found a lot of stuff on this one, but I'm looking for a particular point. So let me scroll down. Suspiciously, like they're plowing the main street. Where are they plowing the main street? Reclaiming the main street.
Yeah.
These beautiful old theaters.
That's amazing, the brickwork. Yeah.
That's this was the Mormon Tabernacle in Blackfoot, Idaho.
Wow.
It's now a funeral home.
Oh God.
I mean, it's just heartbreaking. Okay, so let me go specifically what I'm trying to find, which is another synchronicity with the 2024 eclipse that another commenter told me about.
I've heard about 2024. It's popped up a few times that something's happening then. So
the problem.
yeah,
That's the problem right there.
It is the rule book.
They call it a hoax, but I don't think so.
Nah.
Or forgery.
But I mean, seriously, who's going to sit down and do that? I mean, why? I mean, they just say, oh, yeah, someone just spent 2 years of their life writing some fantasy book. Just, you know, they don't want you to know who they are. They'll never make a cent from it, but they released it at, you know, come on.
This is worth the wait here. This is really cool.
They'll have to tell us that whatever's true is false and whatever's false is true.
That's a good good way of looking at it. They reversed everything, inverted everything. There's another beautiful theater that was said to have been built, there we go, 1927.
And these dates as well, I guess they all match in because what the 20s was that, what's that style called? Where everything's rounded off. I can't remember. There's a style because they do that as well. They'll say this style was in vogue, you know, in the 30s, and this was in the 20s, and all they're doing is adding a different facade to them.
Okay, so this is where the two paths will cross, or the second path will cross the same place. And then another commenter told me that there were 9 Salems on the 2024 solar eclipse path. So 7 Salems in 2017, 9 Salems in 2024.
Wow.
And the place where that actually crossed over.
Yeah, when that cross was.
Is Giant City State Park, which experienced the longest period of totality during the 2017 eclipse.
Wow.
And this is basically where the two places cross.
God.
Giant City State Park in Makanda, Illinois. And the address is like 1 Salem Road. And somebody else left me that information in a comment that it was 1 Salem Road.
They do tell us a lot, don't they? But then they tell us, oh no, it doesn't mean there were giants there. No, don't be silly.
No.
Got nothing to do with
It's
that.
natural.
No.
It's natural.
They're not huge old buildings. They're rocks.
So there's some really interesting things about that eclipse, those two eclipses, plus being 7 years apart, which is a mystical number.
Yeah, of course.
So I really believe it is biblical, that there's something very special about these events.
Well, I mean, I'd agree. I mean, obviously we've had the conjunction and now we're moving into Aquarius, you know, everything's changing, isn't it? We're moving into ether, the energies are changing. And I mean, just have to look around to see that things are changing, don't you? I mean, the old system is collapsing faster than we can keep up with what's going on. It's,
right.
I
mean, we're truly in the age of no more secrets. And while the controllers obviously spent a lot of time contriving their plan on how to take over everything, I've been working on this for a while. It's becoming glaringly obvious for those with eyes to see what's actually going on for the first time in history, that we know of, you know, that we've been part of.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. Everything that they're doing at the moment is coming back to bite them in the bum. They can't put a foot right. It's like it's literally like, I don't know, the energy's changed and they can't quite connect with it. They're sort of out of their space, if you know what I mean. And so, and because we've risen in vibration, we can just see straight through them. We can see through their games now. Like, it's ridiculous, because I actually don't think that the news changed that much last year. I think that what happened is everyone's perception of the news changed, and we could just see how blatantly they were lying to us.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and stop the share.
Cool.
I mean, like I said, I've got a lot of information, and it's too much for me to cover in one spot, but we've been able to hit a lot of highlights of it.
Definitely. No, that was great. That was great. Yeah. So with sacred geometry, how does that work in with the alignments or anything like shapes? Are you finding different, like the platonic solids or anything like that out there as well? You are. So it looks like
I haven't done as much with that because I've seen other people do work on the sacred geometry within the flower of life pattern. So I found the star tetrahedron in North America that is the basis of my work. But I know there's more. I just haven't drilled down to that level. I mean, that would be like that would be too much for me. But other people have found those kinds of things.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it looks like. That's what we're told. Looking to the past, and all they talk about is alchemy and wizards and all this kind of stuff. So it's clearly something was going on there. But like we said, that the only tool they've got against us is to trick us, to get us to focus on what they want us to focus on. And when they do that, they sort of own our power, don't they? Mm-hmm. And that seems to have been how they've been able to encroach and take over and make us believe that, well, something it's not.
And that's, I think, the hardest thing right now, going through what we're going through collectively, is being at this level of awareness and really not being able to communicate to people that I'm close to because they're following mainstream media and believe what they believe, which is completely opposite of what I believe and know about what's going on. And so, I really can't talk to them about it because, the damage that the propaganda and everything that's been going on has done.
Exactly. I hear you there. I mean, they all think that we're the weirdos trying to spread lies.
It's just really, so I'm just waiting for things to play out. I've been waiting for things to play out in a positive way for a while now, and it's taken longer than I thought it was going to, but I really am very confident that when the dust settles, especially with what's going on over in the United States right now, when all that settles, and it's going to be an interesting couple of weeks here, I think we're all going to be in a better place when we get on the other side.
Yeah, I totally.
Because if I'm wrong, God help us. But if I'm right, things are going to be much better.
Well, that's the other thing. We can't even, this is the thing that if we focus on the wrong thing, on the bad, then that we're going to help it come into fruition, aren't we? So, we have to understand that we create the future, and that's what we've got to focus on. But I do think, and I do feel that at this point, energies have changed as far as I think it's out of everyone's hand what really happens here. I don't think that if they wanted to stay and keep control, I don't think they actually have the means to do that. Just because it's, basically we're going to rise and they're going to stay where they are, and there we go, hopefully. That's the plan.
Yeah, I mean, so I just finished doing research on modern history since 1945, between 1945 and 1960. It's probably going to end up being like a 3 or 4 part series. It just depends on going through, but it's just, they've been planned. This has been in the works for quite a while. The what the controllers wanted has been in the works for a while. I mean, it's like we've been totally indoctrinated with all of this stuff, and in movies, in school, showing us what they want us to believe and know about history. And even looking at the McCarthy years, McCarthyism in the United States, where Senator McCarthy was saying there's communists that have infiltrated the government and the State Department and in Hollywood and all this other stuff, and bringing forward people for hearings and so forth. This was in the 50s. And how it's come down to us is that he was falsely accusing all of these people. But what's happening now is showing that he wasn't off the mark.
No, he wasn't.
But he was, demonized, and he died at the age of 48. He was censured. He was censured, and then he just died a couple of years after that took place.
Yeah.
He was censured for conduct unbecoming of a senator. And, it really looks like he was exposing some truths. And that's just in light of recent events.
And it was only a decade later that JFK tried to do the same, and we all know what happened to him.
Yeah.
So definitely concerted effort. So, all righty, well, let's don't want us to end on a bad note. So, no, I think we're all going to be fine, but definitely there's going to be healing that needs to be done. There's a lot of, we're going to need to rebuild the system and get rid of this beast money system, really. But thanks heaps for joining us. As you said, Michelle, you've got Unguru that you're a part of.
It's the website is unguruyourlife.com, and I have a page on there. I have a social media group. I have some courses on sacred geometry available. They're additional costs, but it's really not that expensive. And then I also have exclusive content and special interviews for people that are monthly subscribers, and it's $9.99 a month.
Nice.
And Unguru means just that, become your own guru, Unguru, and it's giving people the tools to take back control of their lives.
Awesome. I'll definitely leave the link for that below. So go and have a look, guys. Get off the big websites and get out there and put your time and money into people that are actually giving proper information. So I'll leave all the details to that below.
And it's just people are waking up, at this point in droves. And I think just a takeaway is we've all been lied to. We're all in this together. I said earlier, anger is not going to solve the problem. Hatred's not going to solve the problem. It's time to unite in our hearts so we can move on from this. I mean, they've said before, the only way out is up. Go up.
Definitely. Like I said, we can only do it together. We are one, and together we are strong. Divided we are weak, and we will fall.
I 100% agree with that.
Awesome. All righty. Well, thanks for your time, Michelle. That was very interesting. Yes, and we might have to get you back at another stage to go into some more, because you've done a lot of research. I'll also leave Michelle's link to her website and YouTube below. Definitely go and check it out. Lots of information. What did you say? 200 blog posts now. Lots and lots of videos.
It's getting close.
And some really, really good research. So definitely check Michelle out. All righty. And thank you for your time, and we will chat again soon.
All right. Well, thank you, Campbell.
All right. You have an awesome day.
You too. Or have a good night.
Yes, yes.
My day's starting, your day's ending.
Exactly.
There's a 14-hour difference in time.
Yes, yep. Big things will happen today, and I won't know about it. All right.
You take care. Bye, everybody.
Talk soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.